Alright, hope this discussion so far has made learning school and its concept clear to you all. Now we are moving towards the most important part of the school, that is premises of the school. Now let us one by one take the premises of the learning school. The first premise is the complex and unpredictable nature of the organization's environment, often coupled with the diffusion of knowledge bases necessary for strategy, precludes deliberate control. Strategy making must above all take the form of a process of learning over time, in which at the limit formulation and implementation become indistinguishable. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's spend some time on the first premise of the learning school. There are a couple of things to be considered for understanding and concluding the things. The first is there is complex and unpredictable organizational environment. When environment is both complex and unpredictable, there is less possibility that what you think you would be able to implement as it is. Always remember, because complexity means you can't really understand, you can't really outline the environment, and second, its unpredictability does not allow you to have choices beforehand. Environment being unpredictable and complex actually invites two things. Number one, that you have more and more options in your pocket. Number two, you are ready to learn on the route. Second thing, it's coupled with diffusion of knowledge bases necessary for strategy. And another important thing, that it is a learning process. So actually when the environment is complex and the knowledge diffusion within the organization takes time, so there you have to allow margin for the learning. So first premise of the learning school is this, that strategy development is a learning oriented process. The second is, while the leader must learn too, the leader who is actually behind the strategy of the organization also required to learn, and sometimes can be the main learner. Remember that in the organizations, most of the times, if I just talk about the organizations in Pakistan which are mainly single person oriented organization, because our system is such, or the size of organizations is not really such a large that the one man cannot manipulate the things on its own. Actually, the leader in the second premise is the person who has to learn, and in most of the cases he has to be the main learner. More commonly, it is the collective system that comes. There are many potential strategies in most organizations. Remember that while the leader must learn too, and sometimes can be the main learner, more commonly it is the collective system that comes. There are many potential strategies in most organizations. Remember that the second premise is the leader, the one who drives the organization, has to be a learner so that he could transform his learning to the organization for a successful strategy emergence. The third is, this learning proceeds in emergent fashion. So learning is always emergent. Remember, learning is always emergent. Yes, deliberations have a role to play in it, but mostly we learn on the path through behavior that stimulates thinking retrospectively, so that sense can be made of action. So remember that. Do you remember in the entrepreneurial school we talked about types of seeing? Seeing ahead, seeing behind, seeing below, seeing above, seeing beyond, seeing around. And what was the essence of this seeing? The essence, these were required for the learning. And when this learning is there, you can do according to the changing environment. The same is the point made here, that essentially the nature of learning is emergent. So strategies are emergent in the organizations. The role of leadership thus becomes not preconceived deliberate strategies, but to manage the process of strategic learning whereby novel strategies can emerge. So this is perhaps the conclusive point of premises of the learning school, that the role of leadership in an organization is not to have preconceived strategies, but they also to facilitate, coordinate and guide the learning process. Because as I mentioned, that this is possible that when you start in an organization, the choices you have in the shape of strategies are limited to be found when you proceed further and you find out new strategies which can emerge and they can uniquely create fruits for the organization. We have a couple of examples to discuss in the coming videos, that how learning creates great opportunities for the organizations. Conclusively here, there were the 4 things in the premises. Number 1, the environment is complex and unpredictable. Number 2, the strategy is a learning process. Number 3, the leader has to be a learner and learning facilitator. And number 4, the leadership in an organization's job is not only to give some strategic choices in the beginning, but also to be ready to learn for all those strategic choices which can emerge on the path of the organization. So this is actually the conclusion of the point, that in organizations the strategies are the result of learning. Therefore, we can conclude that strategy development is not only a deliberate process, but it is also a learning process. Thank you very much.